Hello everyone, welcome to the series of videos on web programming basics. In the previous video we discussed and we worked with CSS code. We worked with CSS. In this video we will be discussing the CSS box model, the underlying box model. So let's move. So here we have the box model represented into a visualization. So actually in CSS every element HTML element is treated as a box, and of course then we see every element has actually the four boxes. So in the inner box at the core we have the content itself, the actual content area that is represented here with the blue box here, and then this box is surrounded with a white space that is called padding. So around the content area we have the space that is called padding, so that is the padding box. And then on the top of the padding we have the border box. So this border is something that encloses padding and the content. And then finally we have this margin box. So this box is also a white space, so which is actually not visible on the browser, but this is the space, and this box is actually surrounds the border, padding and the content. So in summary, the actual content is the content area itself, and then border is something that is the outline uh, around the content, and then we have two spaces called the padding and the margin. So padding space is something which is between the border and the content, and margin is something which is between the border and the elements parent element, or say the viewport where elements resides in the main body element. So we can see this into effect. So then let's move to the code. So here we have the editor open, so we can actually create a new file for the box model here. So let's name the file box model here .html. So we have created this HTML file where we want to see the box model. So let's place the simple HTML5 placeholder. So we will move the extra text from here. So to play with the box model, we want to place a div element, and then we want to name the class as box. So we have here the div element, and inside div, let's say we want to write the content area. First let's save this file and then open this file into a browser so that we can see this. So this is something which is rendered in the browser. We see the content area is placed here. So let's put some CSS inside the style tag so that we can see the CSS and the div elements together. So we want to style the class box applied to the div element, and then let's say first have the background color of this say on blue. Okay, now we have this box here. So this box occupies the entire space in the row because it's the div element, the block element, so which occupies the whole space here. Now as we can see, sorry, we have in the box model we have this content area, and then we have the padding and margin around the border. So I think first we may want to create the border so that we can visualize the space here. So let's create the border first. So for the border, we will first write the short command and then we will move to explain these commands. First, we want to understand the concept. So let's say we want to place the 5 pixel border of a solid line, and then color should be red. Okay. So let's refresh, and now we have the border around our content area. Now we can actually visualize the padding and margin easily. So let's first add the margin here. So margin is the padding here. So padding is the space between the border and the content area. So first, let's say we want to have the 10 pixels of padding, 10 pixels of space around the content area. So now we see we have the space around the content area. Between the border and the content there is a space that's called the padding. So let's comment this out, and then we can see that if there is no space, the border actually sticks together with the content area. So once we have the padding, so the content moves away from the border. Similarly, now we can visualize and see into effect the margin. Margin is also the space. So let's put 20 pixels of space around this box. So we refresh the page, we can see that there is a 20 pixel space around the whole content area, around the whole div box. So we have the space from the top, right, bottom, and then left, the space of 20 pixels. So I think we can also visualize the box model space with dev tools. So now we can open the dev tools, and with the dev tools we can, let's say we have the elements, and then uh, okay, so it's here actually. So first let's select this box here, and now we can actually visualize this box visualization from here. So we see the box here within the dev tools. So we have this outer box, that is the margin, and then inside we have this border box, and then we have this padding box, and finally we have this content box. So let's see, we hover over these spaces, and then actually browser will visualize each thing. So now when we hover over the margin, so we see around the box that there is a margin with this color. Just see here. So we have this border, and now we can actually select the margin. Now we can select the border here. Now the border is selected, and now we can select this padding, the space around the content area. Just see. So this is visualized as a green color, and then finally we have this content area with the background of blue here. So this is our content area with the space of padding, and then border, and then finally we have this margin space. So that's the box model. So actually everything is the box in CSS. So we can close this, and then we can now move to play with the padding and margin. So now first let's focus on padding the space around here. So actually we can have separate space around the content from, differently. We can initialize the padding differently from the top and then right bottom. So let's say we want the 20 pixel space from the right, and then from the bottom we want to have this of let's say 30 pixels, and then from the left, say we want to have the 50 pixels space. So let's refresh this. Now we can see that we have the separate space around the padding for the padding. So actually this reads as following. So the first value is the top. Let's change it into 100 so that we can see how it works. So now see the top of the actual content area is separated from the border with 100 pixels of value. So this first value selects the top area. Now let's make it 20 again, and now we move to this 20. Let's make it 200 pixels. Now we can see that from the right side it is actually 20 pixels, but because the text is too short, so we can actually cannot see this into effect. So if we add more text here, say with a lorem. So now if we refresh this thing, now we see that from the right we have 200 pixels of space. So the second value is for the right, and then we have this 30 pixels. Let's make it 20 again. Now we have short space from the right side. Now this is for the bottom, the 30 pixel for the bottom. If we make it 300, but if we refresh, we cannot visualize this thing easily. So now we see that the bottom is actually 300 pixels. The content is away from the border, 300 pixels away. So this is for the bottom. Now let's make it 30 again, and finally we have this for the left. So let's make it 500. So let's refresh. Now we have this 500 pixels of space from the left. So we can we can assign the space separately for each top, right, bottom, and left. Similarly, if we provide only two values, let's remove this. So if we provide two values for the padding, so the first value is for the top and bottom, and then the second value is for the right and left. So we have the 20 pixels space for the right and left, and then we have this 10 pixels space from the top and bottom. So let's make it 100 to see the effect. So this is the top and bottom, and let's make it again 10 and then make 200 so we can visualize the space between from the left and right. So this is 200 pixels. So if we provide four values, this is for the top, right, bottom, and left in order. And if we only provide two values for the padding, so the first value is for the top and bottom, and then the second value is for the left and right. Similarly, we can provide three values. So if we have, let's say, 20 pixels, we have three values here. So what happens is that this middle value is treated for the left and right, and the first value is treated for the, let's actually zoom in here. So here the padding of 10 pixel is for the top, and then this padding of 20 pixels is for the bottom, and then 200 pixel is for the left and the right if we only provide three values. So in principle we can assign the equal space for the four sides. If we provide only one value, it is treated for all the sides. If we provide two values, the first value is for the top and bottom, and then the second value is for the left and right. And if we provide, let's say, three values, the first value is for the top, the last value is for the bottom, and then the middle value is for the right and left. Finally, if we provide 4 values, then in order, the first value, the 10 pixels, is for the top, and then the second value is for the right side, the third value is for the bottom, and then finally the last value is for the left. So similarly, we can actually work with the margin also. So let's make this 10 pixels so that it is neat and clean here. So again, we have 10 pixels of padding around the content area, equally from the top, right, bottom, and left. Now we can also assign the margin value similarly to the padding. So let's say, for example, if we have 20 pixels of margin, so this is actually around the for all the 4 sides. If we provide, let's say, let's make it 100. So if we assign 2 values for the margin, so the first is for the top and bottom, and then the second is for the left and right. So let's see if we refresh the page. So we see the 100 pixel space is applied around the border between both right and left, and then 20 pixel is for the top and bottom. So if we make it 200, we can see that from the top there is only 200 pixels space, but from the bottom we cannot actually visualize the space because there is only one box here. If we had let's say another box, so let's copy this. If we had 2 boxes, so now we can see that these 2 boxes are away 200 pixels. Let's make them 20 pixels again. Now these boxes will move closer to each other because there is only 20 pixels space around this. One important thing to note is that actually the first box has the 20 pixels of space for the margin for the bottom and the top also, and the second box also has 20 pixels of space around the top and bottom. So in principle, the space between the boxes should be 40. For example, 20 pixels and 20 pixels is 40 pixels, but it's actually 20 pixels. So CSS is actually makes this space, this adds the space between the boxes, and whichever value is greater, this is the space between the two boxes. So we can actually see this into effect if we had, let's say, another box. So let's copy this one. So what we do is we just make this 30 pixels here, and then we make this class as box 2. Now we assign this class to the second div here. Now if we add, now if we can see that the space between the boxes is 30 pixels because the first box has the 20 pixels of value and the third box has the 30 pixels of value. So 30 pixels is the largest one, so that's the value that is actually selected between the elements. I think this was the diversion, but it was helpful. Now we can move again to the margin thing. So let's undo these changes here. Okay, so now we can again see that we can also have 3 values here for the margin. So for the top we have 20 pixels, and for the bottom we have 10 pixels, and for the right and left we have 100 pixels. Let's make it 300 so we can see the effect. So the second box will move away because we have removed. Now we see that there is a 300 pixels of space around this box between the left from the left side and right side, and then 20 pixels space on the top and the 10 pixels on the bottom. So if we resize this window, now we can see that there is a constant 300 space around it. So let's make the space small. So we now have 10 pixels of value. Finally, we can also test the, let's say, 30 pixels of space. So now we have 4 values for the margin. So the first value is for the top, then for the second value is for the right, then the third value is for the bottom, and then 30 pixels, the last value is for the left. So if we refresh the page, we can see this into effect. One important point is that we can also assign the relative space, or say the space into percentage. So for example, if I assign the space of 20%, and if I refresh, so there is a space of 20%, and this 20% is relative to the viewport size. So for example, if we resize, this space gets larger and larger because there is a percentage and the viewport size is changing. So here viewport size is large, so the space for the margin is large. And if we resize or reduce the space, so this space for the margin is also getting smaller because it is calculated as a percentage of the viewport size. And similarly, we can also have the padding as the percentage. So let's refresh this. Now we have this value as a percentage. Again, if we resize, the space of padding also gets larger and larger. So I think that's quite of for the box model. So there is anything else to continue? I think we can also see one more thing, the inline elements and the block elements. So we can visualize this. Okay, let's get the boxes smaller so we can actually make the point clear, and also make these spaces short. So move again back to pixels. Okay, so now we have only one box here. So now we will discuss the concept of block level elements and inline elements. So the div by default is actually the block level element. So by block level element, what it means is that the block level element occupies the entire space in a row. So here we see the browser window. The box actually occupies the entire space in the row. And if we had an other div elements, let's copy this. So this will move to the next space. So let's refresh this. Now this is going to the next line. And similarly, if we had more and more boxes, these will actually move to all to the next rows. But if we make this element inline element, then these boxes will be rendered horizontally. So let's see. Actually, we can make the elements as block level elements or the inline element with the display property. So we have this display property, and by default this div box is actually a block level element, but we can actually make it inline. So if we make it inline element, so this is the change we have made here. We are displaying the box now as inline element. So the effect of this is that these boxes are rendered horizontally. So remove the margin space. Okay, now we see these boxes are rendered horizontally, but if we have more space, all the boxes are rendered on the same space. But if we get out of the space, the box moves to the next row. So now we see that if the space is smaller, the box has gone to the next row, and then similarly the next box will move to the next row, and like this. And then again, if we have this box, sorry, if we make this box as a block level element, which is the default element, then each box will move to the individual row here. So that's it for the box model. We can actually summarize this. So let's say everything in CSS is actually the box. So at the core we have actual content area, and this content area can be controlled with the width and height elements. And then we have the outline around the content area, that is called the border. And finally we have two kinds of spaces, the padding space and margin space. So padding space is something which is between the border and the content area, and margin space is around the border. So between the border of the element and the parent element in which the element resides. So I think we can close this video now. So thank you for watching this video, and also, as always, you can provide comments and suggestions to help improve these videos. And also please like and subscribe this channel so that we can have more videos. So this will be the inspiration to add more videos. So lastly, thank you for watching the video, and please keep watching.